Hi, Wendy. Thank you so much for your time. I was really looking forward to interviewing you as well as Don today. And so I want to start by asking about AEPW and then AEPW US, the alliance in the US. What does it do?
Sure. So the Alliance to End Plastic Waste, recently started a regional task group in North America. So it's actually not just the U.S. It includes all of North America. And really, there's three areas of focus that we have in North America right now. So one of the focus areas is driving circularity through advanced recycling demonstrations. Another area is identifying mechanisms and demonstrating step change in stagnant recycling rates. For example, where maybe recycling was and is no longer, they've stopped service for whatever reason, or participation has significantly declined over the years. And then the third area of focus is identifying mechanisms and demonstrating effort to restore recycling where it has ceased, right? And so in many communities, maybe programs are no longer funded that used to be, and so there's no longer any recycling in the area. So the North America Regional Task Group is looking at these three areas and finding projects and ways that we can address these focus areas.
Right. So I had an opportunity to be part of the alliance in Japan. There's a launch event, and so there's a APW in Japan and the US, and then there are many other regional hubs.
Correct. So actually, the scope of my role, right? I am in charge of project implementation for all of the Americas, both North and South America. But then there are also regional task groups, and how those are split up in the US. There is one for North America, and then there's one for South America.
Right. And how many member companies are there now from the alliance in the US?
I'm not sure in the US alone, but I know that the alliance has around, around 90 members?
Okay, great. So I can see from your last name, you have some connection to Japan, and I'm curious about your background. How did you grow up, and how do you get involved in the AEPW Alliance?
Sure. So I was born and raised in Hawaii, and there's a huge Japanese population in Hawaii. I'm actually mixed, so I'm part Portuguese and part Japanese. But in Hawaii, many of us go to college and then never return. And so I'm one of those. I went to school in upstate New York at Cornell University, and from there entered the workforce and never went back home to Hawaii. And so, I've traveled a lot, lived in a lot of different places. Every place is a plane ride home, so it kind of all seems the same no matter how far it is. But then I started working for Dow Chemical. I've been at Dow for the last around 15 years. I came to Dow as an experienced hire, and then Dow seconded me over to the Alliance to End Plastic Waste. And so I started this role with the Alliance this past summer. So in June, I started the role. And like I mentioned earlier, my scope is running projects, so projects that are in the implementation stage for both North America and South America.
So was that similar to what you were doing at Dow? So were you not an engineer or a chemist as part of the company, or you were kind of more managing different projects?
So by degree, I'm an industrial engineer. Over the years, I have done many different things, kind of a jack of all trades, maybe master of some. And I've been in, engineering roles, very typical engineering roles. I've been in supply chain roles, marketing. My last role is in commercial. So I've really spanned a lot of different areas and functions in many different geographies. And something that I really enjoy is working in very entrepreneurial spaces, right? These less defined spaces where it's really hands-on and you have to figure out how to make something successful, right? And so when this opportunity came up to support the Alliance to End Plastic Waste, on behalf of Dow, I jumped on it because I knew it would be a very entrepreneurial environment, a way in which I could personally be a part of the solution and help drive success in our projects with partners and really make a difference.
Right. Right. So switching the gear a little bit to talk about the CRDC and how did you get to know about the CRDC's ideas, Resonate and project, and what was the process like in reviewing their project?
Sure. So right when I started, it was when we were entering into the contracting period for this project. So it had already been approved. It had gone through the different screening processes that the Alliance has, right? There are multiple different stage gates in the process that they had progressed through. And so I inherited the project from somebody else, since it did fall into my area of scope in the Americas. And it's a very exciting project. I was excited to learn, more about it and about their mission, right? It's really quite an impressive mission, right? It really goes end to end, as Don mentioned in his interview, that they start looking at what he calls the tragic plastic, or plastics that have been in the river or end up in the ocean, right? Being able to take municipal waste, industrial waste, waste that is really hard to recycle, right? Hard to process, and many other end markets can't take it, right? So it's really a great solution for plastic that would really end up in a landfill, right? Or in an environment where it's going into the oceans, and to really put it into a process that then gives back to the community, right? It can go into the Resonate process. The Resonate material goes into blocks that go into housing, right? Affordable housing. They're looking at uses in roads and really being able to give back and improve infrastructure, right? And that's what they're doing in Costa Rica. And I've been able to visit the project and really see it, go from plastic waste to make Resonate, and then go and visit the Habitat for Humanity homes that those blocks have gone into.
Yeah, so there's so many exciting aspects about the CRDC, but what's your favorite aspect? What excites you the most?
So what excites me most about the CRDC project is the ability for it to scale, number one, right? So there's a pilot facility right now in Costa Rica that the Alliance is providing funds to help them scale that pilot facility into a full-scale facility. But beyond scale, it's easily replicable, right? And so they are looking at expanding to other locations. So another location that the Alliance has been helping to fund is a new facility in York, Pennsylvania, right? So that's already demonstrating replicability. As Don mentioned in his interview, they have a site in South Africa, right? And I know that the CRDC team is actively looking at, expanding in other business opportunities in many other regions globally. So it really has a great potential for replicability and scalability.
Great. So when I interviewed Nick for the first webinar, he mentioned that there have been over 1,000 applications, and out of which really all these projects need to go through the rigorous process. I'm wondering how many projects you had to review so far, and how many did go through the final stage?
So there are two different groups in the Alliance. There's a sourcing and development group. So that happens, further upstream in the process, and that happens before it gets to me. So I actually am not involved in that screening process. I really take it over once it gets approved, and then I help the project go through contracting all the way through successful implementation, right?
I see. Okay, gotcha. So this webinar, this series of 4 webinars is really to invite and inspire more Japanese companies to be part of this great initiatives. And so how do you see the role of Japanese businesses in reducing the plastic waste?
So I believe everybody has a part in reducing plastic waste, not just Japanese companies. It's everybody, right? Everybody on the streets, no matter where you live globally. As Don mentioned in his interview, it's about getting involved, right? It's about being present and being active in reducing plastic waste. The way I like to think about it is it all starts with a good idea, right? And you take that good idea and you implement it. If you're not the one with the good idea, you find somebody with a good idea and you support them, right? And you help them be successful. And that's what we're doing at the Alliance to End Plastic Waste, right? We have project partners who have great ideas, right? Like CRDC, good ideas of how to take plastic waste and put it back into creating infrastructure, right? And the Alliance is there to help support them. So are their members, the members of the Alliance to End Plastic Waste. We're all here to help support these projects to be successful in achieving the mission, right, of the Alliance, which is to essentially reduce or end plastic waste.
Right, great. So a similar kind of question, but if you have a message to the Japanese audience interested in reducing plastic waste, what would that be?
So my advice to Japanese companies that would like to help reduce plastic waste is to get involved. Join the Alliance to End Plastic Waste. If you're not a member, become one, right? And be actively engaged. There are a lot of opportunities globally that the Alliance has with their regional task groups and other teams within the organization that members who join can be actively making a difference and helping achieve the mission of the Alliance.
Right, join the Alliance. That's a very straightforward message. Thank you. So I have gone through all the 6 questions that were shared already. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with the audience of the webinar?
I don't think I have anything else. I think we covered quite a bit of ground.
Okay. Well, great.
I mean, is there anything else you wanted me to cover that I didn't cover? I know there were a lot of questions. I don't have them in front of me that I had reviewed. I'm not sure if we went through all of them or if there's something else you wanted me to cover.
Yeah, so the 6 questions that have been shared previously, I covered them all.
Oh, maybe what would be good is I can share about my visit to Costa Rica. I mean, would you like me to talk about that? Okay.
That'd be great.
Sure. So, with the world opening up after the pandemic, I've been able to visit both the Costa Rica pilot facility and the York facility this year. And the most impactful part about the visit to Costa Rica, as Don had mentioned, was being able to see the plastics in the river, right? So the CRDC facility in Costa Rica is in San Jose near the airport. And there's a river that backs up to the backside of their facility. And you can see, pieces of all sorts of waste in the river, including plastic. I mean, there's tires, there are toys, all sorts of different waste in that riverway. And so I got to see plastic waste, along the river. And then as a part of the visit as well, we went down to the mouth of the Tarcoles River, which is said to be one of the most polluted waterways in Central America. And, when we got to the beach, there were a lot of shoes, there were a lot of toys, a lot of plastic bottles and other types of plastic waste there, lots of different waste all over the beach. And so, for me, it really brought the issue of, plastic in the environment to life because I got to see it, right? It's not something that I had been exposed to in the past. In the US, you don't see a lot of the trash piling up at the beach or along the riverways. And so seeing it firsthand really had a huge impact on me and really helped me to see the mission that CRDC, is trying to create and make happen, right? To take this, what Don calls tragic plastic, the plastic that's in the river, it makes its way to the beach, and figure out a way to put it back into the resonate process, which would go into build infrastructure for the local Costa Rica community.
So he did emphasize the importance of visiting the location, and you did exactly that. I'm curious, so you are kind of still wearing a hat of DAO representative seconded to the Alliance, and what do you think is the level of kind of understanding among the DAO employees about those kind of how the plastic issues manifest itself in the countries like Costa Rica, and some of the potential solutions that can be employed to solve those challenges?
Yeah, and I think my biggest takeaways is the issues are different depending on the country you're in, right? The US challenges are very different from those of South America, of Central America. In some of the South American countries, it's around collection, right, or waste management systems. And then in the US or North America, it's more along the lines of establishing end markets, right, or increasing those collection rates, right, which I talked about the goals earlier. And so the solutions will differ depending on the region you're in, right? And so there's no really one solution for everywhere, right? It has to be a custom solution in order to be sustainable based on, the culture, the country itself, right? What are the local regulations? And I think that all is important to understand, right? And so going back to my advice is we need everybody to be involved because the solution is different everywhere, right? And if everyone gets involved, it will become more sustainable because it's coming from their local ideas, their local support, right?
Yeah. So I think there are a lot of very interesting projects that the PW is supporting. I'm curious, I have a daughter at home, and we sometimes talk about what Copernic as an organization does, and then this kind of younger generations are becoming more aware of these social issues, and so I wonder what kind of conversations that you have at home with your children.
Yep. So this is actually a great question because I have, children at home that are very young, and I feel like it's very important to educate them, right? Educate them on the issues, educate them on the services that are out there. So actually over our holiday break in December, I took my children to visit a MRF in the city of Houston. And they were able to go there and understand and learn about recycling. What are they able to recycle? What does our local collection take and not take? And that was very powerful. They came home and now they're educating their friends on what to recycle. They know what to put in the recycling bin. And then they got to go and see a MRF and how a MRF operates. And so they understand the certain behaviors that they do at home could create, issues for a MRF to be able to process material, correctly or effectively. And so I think education is very powerful and very powerful in those younger generations because they are the ones who become the teachers, right? And they are the ones who teach their friends, they teach their communities, and they're going to be the future leaders. And so educating them at an early age is very powerful.
Yeah, it's great. How old are they?
10, 9, and 5.
Oh, you have 3. Wow. Right.
Yep.
Yeah,
and the 3 of them are great recyclers.
That's fantastic. Yeah, so I can see that the Alliance is not only getting the companies involved, but inspiring the next generations. So that's great.